Thank you.
With that, we will turn to we have three bills on the agenda this morning. Our first bill is Senate File 2793, property tax modification regarding Pilt. Senator Bakk.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to get the bill, this is the first committee for this bill, and there is a A1 amendment if we could move that. It just changes some dates and gives the commissioners some direction on rounding where you have a portion of a penny in the payments.
Senator Chamberlain will move the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Senator Bakk.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. This is an issue that's very, very important to, well, many counties in the state, but especially to the northern counties. The state has in statute a program called the Payment in Lieu of Tax Program, and it's a way to compensate local governments for the lost tax base by public land holdings in their jurisdictions. And as a couple of examples in my district, Cook County, and I think most people are familiar with Cook County on the North Shore, city of Grand Marais is there, 91% of the county is publicly owned. So there's just not a lot there to tax. So the payment in lieu of tax system becomes very, very important as they try to deliver services to a lot of people that come and visit there and as a way to mitigate property tax burden on people. Lake County, right down Highway 61 towards Duluth, Two Harbors and Silver Bay are the major cities in that county. That's about 84% publicly owned. St. Louis County, a pretty large county, over 60% publicly owned. So the payments that those kind of counties with a lot of public land holdings in become very, very important as we try to provide services. A lot of tourists come up there. And there's a great deal of emergency type services that are necessary to provide for way more than just the people that live there. There are about 8 million acres of public land in Minnesota. Most of them are up north. And when the Pilt formula was first put together, most of the money did flow north. But over the years, public land has been added closer to the metropolitan area, and it's higher valued land, and the formula makes some considerations for valuation on some of the parcels also. So what of the state-owned land in them, about 62% of the acres eligible for Pilt are in those 6 counties up north. They receive about 39% of the actual money that's appropriated into the Pilt formula. So this is an effort to after years of the money kind of, for lack of a better word, shifting south, this is a way to kind of restore the original intent of the Pilt program that's defined in Chapter 477A.10, where it says to compensate local governments for the loss of tax base, especially in those with a large proportion of state land. So, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the committee's consideration of this. I'll try to do my part to see if we can get leadership to make sure that this committee gets a decent target so we can do some things like this that help our local governments. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I've got a couple of individuals who'd like to testify.
Very good. Thank you, Senator Bakk. First on the list is Matthew Massman, Executive Director of the Minnesota Intercounty Association. Mr. Massman, please come forward. Welcome to the committee, and you know the procedure, and we'll let you go from there.
I do, Mr. Chairman and committee members, good morning. Thank you. Matt Massman, Executive Director of the Minnesota Intercounty Association. MICA is a voluntary county association of 15 of Minnesota's larger, faster growing counties, and in this case, in particular, importantly, that includes St. Louis County, which has Senator Bakk just mentioned, has over 60% of its acreage publicly owned and tax exempt. MICA's legislative priorities overall aim to support the work of counties for the benefit of Minnesotans by protecting local property tax base and promoting full state funding for state decisions and programs that impact counties or that counties administer on behalf of the state. State natural resource lands and similar public lands require local public services like emergency medical, fire management, law enforcement, solid waste management, and more, but are removed from the tax rolls, from the property tax rolls. Consequently, these exempt lands are unavailable for the kind of development and value-added uses that many taxing jurisdictions pursue to grow tax base to pay for local services. And the concentration of these tax-exempt lands in certain counties has a disproportionate impact on tax base. A primary statutory purpose, as has been mentioned, of Pilt is to address the disproportionate impact of state land ownership on local units of government that have a large proportion of state-owned land. Yet the per-acre payment amounts set in statute have not kept pace with inflation, and Pilt payments for counties with the largest proportions of tax-exempt lands have remained relatively flat, even as costs for providing locally administered services grow over the years. Senate File 2793 recommends two key adjustments to Pilt payments that would provide greater parity in the per-acre payment levels, including increasing the per acreage amount and annually adjusting that amount for inflation, and setting a floor on the downward appraisal adjustments when they are completed every 6 years. And those are both part of MICA's priorities for this legislative session. These lands benefit all Minnesotans, and making these adjustments would enhance and provide greater adequacy and predictability to local resources. We thank Senator Bakk for bringing the legislation forward and authoring and championing this issue over multiple years, and we urge the committee's positive support. And with that, Mr. Chairman and members, thank you for your time, and I'll stick around if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Massman. Any questions, members of the committee? And I'm not seeing, trying to keep track of hands for those at members who are on Zoom. Not seeing anything right now. Anyway, a quick question that I have, maybe for point of clarification. There's a couple of references throughout here where it talks about commissioner and county administered Pilt lands. Could you tell me what the difference is between those two? County administered, does counties actually administer some state lands?
Mr. Chair and members, I'm guessing the next speaker is going to have a deeper knowledge of that, and I'll maybe kick that to Keith. But you know, in the end of the day, all of these lands are tax exempt, which I think is an important distinction here, and unavailable for development in the typical property tax revenue expectation that you would see in other jurisdictions.
Very good.
Thank you.
Any other questions, members? Say none. We will then turn to Keith Carlson, and consultant for the Northern Counties Land Use Coordinating Board. Mr. Carlson, welcome to the committee, and please proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am Keith Carlson. I am a consultant that was hired by the Northern Counties Land Use Coordinating Board, or NCLUB for short, to study Pilt, and this bill is a culmination of the studies, analysis, and recommendations. I'll start off by answering the question that the chair asked. County-administered other natural resources lands are tax-forfeited lands as generally outside of cities. The northern counties have a quite large percentage of these acreages, and many of them have land departments that administer these lands on behalf of the state and the other local units of government. So they manage them for forestry and for other purposes.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay. So to start with, all of you have in your packets a document. The electronic version at the very end was preliminary 2/9/22 presentation, and there's hard copy that has been distributed. There was a color copy that was distributed by the page on my behalf. Pilt, or payments in lieu of taxes, was originally enacted in 1979, first making payments in 1980. It's intended to compensate local units of government for the direct and indirect costs related to state-owned natural resources land. All 87 counties receive Pilt, with some of those monies shared with the townships and school districts. Although a significant element of the state's natural resources policy, the jurisdiction for this program, because of its property tax relief element, has always been in the tax committees. It's grown substantially since 1979. It started out at about $5.5 million in 1980, the first year payment, and now stands at $36,347,000. So it's grown by 559%, but that growth has been very unequal. It's not aligned at all with where the Pilt lands are located. As Senator Bakk mentioned, 95% of Pilt lands are in northern Minnesota. But despite that concentration, most of the increases have gone to southern Minnesota, where 5% of these lands exist. The reason for that is because of the differentiation within the statute on how much compensation you receive depending on the category of Pilt lands that you have, and the valuation increases relating to one of those categories. The major categories are acquired natural resources land, land that administered by the DNR that's either acquired through gift, condemnation, or purchase. That's the highest compensated category, and then DNR administered other natural resources land and county administered other natural resources land, has the chair already alluded to. DNR administered other natural resources land, a good example of it, land that they acquired other than through purchase, gift, or condemnation would be school trust lands. The Pilt reimbursement rates started out in 1979 at $3 an acre for acquired natural resources land and 75 cents per acre for the county-administered other natural resources land. Again, basically tax forfeited land outside the cities. And then 37.5 cents for the DNR-administered other natural resources land. It now stands at the higher of $5.13.3 per acre for the acquired natural resources land, or the higher of, if that's the case, 0.75% of appraised value, which it is in 77 of the 87 counties, and then $2 an acre for the other major categories. The change then in the aggregate payments for the acquired natural resources land, which started out at about $1,654,000, is now $21,233,000, 1,083% increase. The county administered other natural resources land, again tax forfeited lands, it started out at $2,099,000. And now stands at $5,570,000, a 65% increase. DNR administered other natural resources land started out at $1,759,000, is now at $8,191,000, a 265% increase, but that started out at a very low base of 37.5. I should have mentioned the breakdown in the acreage is for the acquired natural resources land is about 1.5 million acres. County administered about 2.75 million acres. And for the DNR administered other natural resources land is about 4,100,000 acres. So the payments are exactly the opposite of the land mass that's in play here. Because of the inequities within the Pilt formula, some of the statutory purposes are not being met, we concluded with our study. Those purposes are to compensate for the loss of tax base due to the state ownership of natural resources land and the need to provide services to those lands. 2, to address the disproportionate impact of state land ownership on local units of government with a large percentage of Pilt lands. And 3, to address the need to manage state lands held in trust for local taxing districts. That's the tax forfeited land again. The failure to meet the statutory purpose, along with the growing disparities in the amount of Pilt received per acre, raises a fundamental question, the fairness of the existing distribution formula. For the first 15 years of the Pilt's existence, the disparity between the highest and lowest compensated county on a per acre basis was a factor of 8. The highest compensated county received 8 times more per acre than the lowest compensated county. With the change that added this 0.75% of appraised value option for the acquired natural resources acre, that disparity now stands at 170 times. The highest compensated county receives more than 170 times per acre than the lowest compensated county under current law. And this is all being driven by that 0.75%. You'll see on the map on the next page that all the counties, with the exception of Lake bordering Canada, receive compensation at the lowest level for their acquired acres, $5.13. So they've grown a nominal amount from what originally was $3 per acre. The remainder of the counties and the other counties, on average, are receiving $22.17 per acre on average. A dramatic increase, more than, a sevenfold increase from the original $3 per acre. So that leads to the question, has Pilt kept up with inflation? Well, for the acquired natural resources land for those counties electing the 0.75% payment option, it has. If they had just kept pace with inflation, the $3 per acre would be in 2020, $12.92. As I said, it on average right now is at $22.17. The county administered that started out at 75 cents, if it had kept pace with inflation, should be at $3.23 as of 2020. It's only at 2. And then the DNR administered that started out at the very low base of 37.5 cents per acre. Keeping pace with inflation would have brought it to $1.62. They are receiving 2, but again, they're starting out at an extremely slow base. One of the final things we looked at was, is it meeting the obligation per statute to make up for property tax loss? And our analysis indicates that about 50% of the counties, half the counties, are not being compensated fully for the loss of tax base. I've included a chart on page 13 of the handout that shows the 10 counties with the largest loss. St. Louis County leads the way at a loss of $4,610,000, followed by Itasca at a loss of $2,283,000, and Aiken at $1,696,000. Rounded out by Hubbard at a loss, has the 10th largest shortfall of $523,000. So the formula is falling short in regards to meeting that purpose. As a result of the study, the N Club came up with a proposal that's captured in Senate File 2793 that, 1, will increase the reimbursement rate for the county and DNR administered other natural resources land $1 from $2 to $3 per acre, still substantially less than the acquired natural resources land. 2, it will provide an additional aid for those counties with large concentrations of Pilt lands that are off the tax rolls for those counties where 25% or more of their land is captured in Pilt, of 18 cents per acre of Pilt land. And then for the counties with 10 to just short of 25% of their land captured in Pilt, getting additional aid of 8 cents per acre. The third proposal would create a hold harmless provision that if your valuation for purposes of the acquired natural resources land portion of the formula goes up, but then subsequently goes down, this would hold you harmless. It would keep you at the higher of the prior valuation. 37 counties experienced some reduction in 2016 because my guess is because of downturns in the wood products industry and still some other results of the 2007 through 2009, 2010 Great Recession. And finally, just a study of the valuation of lakeshore within county and DNR-administered other natural resources land. Obviously, lakeshore is quite valuable, but it's only for the acquired natural resources land where you receive compensation based on the value of that lakeshore. Club would like to examine what's the value of lakeshore captured within these other two categories to see if some further changes of the formula are allowed. I've shown on the last page where the increases would occur under the Club proposal. This is approximately a $10.5 million proposal under the bill's language right now. That increase won't occur until next biennium. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll conclude and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Carlson. Senator Chamberlain.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I thought you retired, Mr. Carlson. Good to see you nonetheless. I think overall it's a good idea. I mean, I want to say that up front. It's the only challenge, obviously, I think Senator Bakk would agree, is these inflation things on bills is a bit troubling and difficult for most of us to deal with. But otherwise, it's you know, these things get upside down, and it's curious as to why. So I think it's a good idea. The inflation thing is probably a little problematic. But would you refresh my memory again? You had mentioned earlier, Mr. Carlson, why did this get upside down?
Basically, Mr. Chairman, it was a change that was enacted in 1995 that went into effect in 1986, where this 0.75% of appraised value option was put in place for acquired natural resources land. So from there on out, that property, along with its appreciation, received ever increasing amounts of aid. As I indicated in one of the charts of the handout, they've gone up 1,083% in the 41-year history of the program. None of the other categories come close to that. 265% increase for the DNR administered is the closest it comes to that. So that's where the change got. And I do want to mention, I neglected to say, none of this proposal harms any county. Everybody receives at least what they're receiving right now. And it does something to close the gap, but it only closes the gap a relatively minor amount.
One
Senator
quick
Chamberlain.
thing. Thank you, Mr. Carlson. Yeah, and it's only, I mean, in the end, the cost in relative terms is not that much to make it whole and fix this problem. So, good idea. I kind of like that going forward. Thank you. Thank you, Senator Bakk. Thank you, Mr. Carlson.
Senator Bakk.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I just want to explain maybe the reason for the hold harmless provision in here so that if valuations go down. Here's my example. Back in 2008, Governor Plenty, with my support, bought about 5 miles of lakeshore on Lake Vermilion. And we paid U.S. Steel about, I think, around $19 million for that land. So that land, and U.S. Steel had already done a lot of work in putting a master plan together to develop that property. It was about 3,000 acres. And so you lose the potential for all the development in one of Minnesota's premier lakes. The county lost all that opportunity. But what really, and I supported that because it's going to be the Jewel State Park of Minnesota once we get it totally built. But the challenge becomes every 5 years these public lands are reappraised. And what happened in the case of Vermilion, and the reason for the hold harmless provision, is we paid $19 million for it. 5 years later, the county, when they had to do the reappraisal, came in at a valuation of $15 million for Lakeshore. So I called the county and I said, well, what happened? And they said, well, you know, the highest and best use when the state bought the land was for development. But now the highest and best use, it's public land for a park, and it's just not worth as much. So it's really not fair for the state to purchase land, and then because they've changed the use of it, for the valuation to collapse. And, you know, that happens quite often. I've carried a lot of bills around this place where we add on to state parks. And when they become a state park, they're just not worth as much money because the highest and best use is generally always development. So I just wanted to explain that to the committee, that there's really a good reason for that hold harmless provision, because I personally experienced it. And we've got another one on Lake Vermilion, actually. We added, the Dayton family owns, back in the 30s, a couple miles of shoreline on Lake Vermilion. It's quite a ways away from the state park, but last year I expanded the state park boundary and put another couple miles of shoreline that the Dayton family currently owns that they intend to convey to the state in 2035, I believe. That's what the 5 brothers wanted done with the property, and they've all passed now. So we're transitioning into that, becoming part of the Vermilion State Park. It's in the boundary now, even though it's still publicly owned land, but what I don't want to have happen is the valuation of that is quite high, is that when it actually gets conveyed to the state, that the valuation goes down. And then, you know, everyone else ends up picking up the additional property tax burden of it. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Klein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Senator Bakk. And Senator Bakk actually sort of anticipated my question about the hold harmless and the education and the history on that, so it's very helpful. Thank you. And very grateful as a frequent visitor to your district and to user of the public lands up there, the fact that we sustain them in this state as, you know, compared with other states where they sort of fully develop these natural lands. And so I'm grateful for the proposal. I will also say, sort of as a new guy to the committee and just going through the tax expenditure report, I appreciate the way this program is structured, that we don't have to sort of, the point you always make is that tax expenditures are actually allocations, and this actually is an allocation. So it's on its face exactly what it is to say. So, Mr. Massman, you briefly went over the study of lakeshore property valuations that is part of this bill, and I didn't fully track that. Can you educate me on that a little more?
Mr. Chairman, again, lakeshore captured within the acquired natural resources land, the value of the raw land is captured for purposes of the study, albeit, as Senator Bakk said, once it changes its ownership, it may drop because of that change. So generally, they're receiving compensation based on 0.75% of appraised value for that property. But for the lakeshore within county administered other natural resources land, generally tax forfeited land, or in DNR administered other natural resources land, while the assessors still value it, it doesn't come into play for purposes of the Pilt formula. It just receives $2 per acre. And as I pointed out earlier, on average for the acquired natural resources, they're being compensated at $22.17 per acre. So we're just asking that the N Club is to, what is the value of at least that lakeshore in a discrete breakout, and possibly, you know, why is it treated differently under current law?
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Senator Bakk.
Senator Klein, my example of where the problem's got a problem with this is on Burnside Lake. And you may be familiar with Burnside Lake, because I know you spend a great deal of time up north. But Burnside Lake is just outside of Ely. It's a pretty big lake. Most of the lakeshore on that land is county tax forfeited land, state land that we don't accommodate for the fact that there's all this lakeshore on a very, very beautiful lake that we're getting $2 an acre on. It's taken, and I'm not proposing we sell it, but it's got way more valuation on a lake like that than a raw $2 an acre reimbursement.
One question I have, Mr. Carlson, in the bill on page 3 of the bill, subdivision, section 3, subdivision 4, it talks about the increase every year for inflationary purposes. And just so that everyone understands, is the mentioned as provided in section 270C.22 subdivision 1, is that a reference to normal inflation factors, or is it a separate or different calculation?
Mr. Chairman, inflation adjustment there is exactly the same inflation adjustment that's used for purposes of indexing the individual income tax for inflation or the taconite production tax. In assisting in putting together this bill, I suggested that the reference be the same, so that inflation that occurs will increase not only the value that's used for this 3/4%, but also will increase what is now a fixed dollar amount of either $5.13.3 per acre or $2 per acre. So they will see some increase over time as well.
Very good. Any other questions? What we will do then, if there are no other questions, we shall lay Senate File 2793 over for possible inclusion and as amended. Thank you. And very good.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman of the committee.
Okay, next we will turn to Senate File 2868, Senator Goggin.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, committee members. Senate File 2868 is a result of a lot of hard work on the team that we put together between the Association of Minnesota Counties and our farming organizations throughout the state. It wasn't easy because of, back in basically 2018, the buffer rule was put into place, so a lot of our farming communities were having land taken out of production and yet still being required to pay taxes based on it being a productive land. And so what Senate File 2868 does is it does its best to make the farmers whole and take that land and make it so that they can get an exemption. And that's, I have an amendment that's in the process of being put together right now. It was a little slow getting that out. But it basically changes the language in the bill that says it's a buffer credit to a buffer exemption. And that is so that it's a lot less paperwork for the farmers and the counties. It's much more efficient to implement the exemptions than a credit. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to change the effective date to 2024, which would be for taxes payable out of 2023, payable in 2024. And that's to allow our counties and our farming organizations, the Minnesota Department of Agriculture, the time to get the word out to our farming community and make sure that when this does become effective, everybody's prepared for it. So. And with that, Mr. Chair, I do want to thank, again, the Association of Minnesota Counties. And in your handouts, we have the Association of Wheat Growers, the Corn Growers, Farm Bureau, Farmers Union, Pork Producers, Soybean Growers, State Cattlemen, Sugar Beet Growers, and the Turkey Growers. So I'm very proud of all the work that all of our organizations put in to get this taken care of. So, and I'll stand for any questions.
Senator Chamberlain.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Goggin. Again, another issue's been around for a while. For years, and Senator Klein referred to it, these tax expenditures will be our death. They will be our death. The best way to do this is simply to pay, right? I would suggest setting it up something similar to a Pilt. It is that sort of thing where property was taken away for conservation purposes. So why couldn't we simply treat this as a payment, or even throw it in the Pilt statute, name it something else, because these credits and exemptions ongoing forever. And secondly, I think the payment would be more direct and timely than the rest. So I would just suggest, it's not a lot of money, but if you're going to do this, just make a payment and take these credits and exemptions away. So that's my only thought and suggestion.
Senator Goggin, is there an estimate as to how many acres have been encumbered by the buffer strip?
Mr. Chair, I do not have those numbers available at this time. I have asked for those, but I have not gotten the true number of acres. But, you know, the counties and assessors have had the opportunity to gather all that information for the tax purposes. So it's out there. I just haven't gotten it yet.
The one comment I would make, Senator Chamberlain, in regards to your comments, is that the fact, I think, at the end of the day, Pilt payments for this particular project might far exceed what we're looking at in terms of the northern lands. Just for an example, in my profession as a real estate appraiser, I appraised shortly after this policy was implemented, a short quarter section back in my home area that for estate purposes. The property had not been signed up in time to receive any type of CRP payments that were allowed for those acres. Out of the short quarter, there were somewhat in excess of 4 acres that were now covered by the buffer strip. And in my valuation process, that, as I remember correctly, the reduction in value as a result of those 4+ acres was in excess of $25,000. Those 25 acres probably pay somewhere between $20 and $25 an acre in real estate taxes. And so you start adding that up, particularly you get into counties with a significant area of county ditches, you know, it's going to be substantial. Now, obviously, there's going to be a reduction of taxes, tax value, and as a result, taxes due to the exclusion. And Senator Goggin, may I ask the amended language to provide for the exclusion as opposed to the credit, is it going to take it down to a certain value or down to 0?
Down to 0.
Okay. And I understand that, Senator Goggin, because in many instances, this land is basically unusable at that point, similar to the ditch or the creek which the property borders. And so, but I think at this point, you do have agreement from the Association of Minnesota Counties, if I heard that correctly.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we do.
And so, and certainly, it is something I think that we certainly need to consider. I always maintained at the time the law was implemented, and I maintain today, that basically what the state did was produce an inverse condemnation by the taking of private property without compensation. And so, anyway, we will lay this bill aside today. Committee members, when the amendment is ready, we will bring it back and apply the amendment and consider it as its first hearing and that it's an author's amendment. And we will proceed from there. Are there any further questions? If not, the bill is laid on the table for further action. And thank you, Senator Goggin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right. Our committee administrator did find that there's 700,000 acres tied up in buffer strips.
Or we could, you know, just not do that anymore. We'd be done with the process.
Well, that is true. Now, we have our third bill today is Senate File 2764, Senator Osmek. He is going to be joining us via phone. He has a video on. Okay, very good. We will now turn to you for Senate File 2764, Senator Osmek.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I would point out I am not having a tooth extracted today, so this is not like my previous appearance in front of your committee, so that's good news. Senate File 2764 deals with interest rates on delinquent property taxes. It does not reduce fees, it does not reduce penalties, but it reduces the actual interest rate, which is actually written into statute and not variable based upon the stock market or interest rates or prime rates. Back in the 70s, we increased the rate, rightfully so, to deal with providing a rate that's somewhat close to the market, but it's never been reduced. And when people are having issues and sometimes by their control, sometimes beyond their control, and have delinquent taxes, adding on an onerous, in my opinion, onerous tax or interest rate on top of the situation may exacerbate rather than help the person get out of trouble. That's not to say that the state or the county or the cities or the school district should be banks where a low interest rate should be available, but it should be something reasonable. And that's what this bill does. I do have one testifier, Mr. Elwood, I believe, should be available to provide additional testimony. That's basically the bill, members.
Very good. Thank you, Senator Osmek. Mr. Elwood, are you on?
Yes, I am, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Please proceed when you're ready.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Ron Elwood with Legal Aid. And first, I'd like to thank Senator Osmek for carrying this bipartisan bill. I'd also like to thank the Association of Minnesota Counties and Matt Hilgard in particular for their collaboration and support. You have a letter of support for Senate File 2764 from AMC in your packets. And I'd also like to say it's nice to see you, Senator Jasinski. So I'm here today to offer our support for Senate File 2764. By any measure, a 10% interest rate floor is out of whack. And just to add a little bit more evidence to support the enactment of this legislation, when this law was first passed, the 30-year fixed interest mortgage rate was 10.13%. That rate, as of February 10th, 2022, was 3.69%. And the rate has not reached double figures since November of 1991. Under the statute, the Department of Revenue sets the rate every year based on this index. But as Senator Osmek said, the rate is a floor of 10% regardless of what the Mindor rate is set at. So I'd also like to point out that the interest rate not only applies to delinquencies, but also to repurchase agreement installment payments. So I know this proposal will be laid over for possible inclusion, and I urge its inclusion in your omnibus bill. We've had many clients facing tax forfeiture who, but for the extraordinarily high interest rate, might have been able to enter into a repurchase agreement to allow them to save their homes. If Senator Osmek's bill becomes law, you will be helping many Minnesotans, including our clients, to be able to stave off the loss of their homes through tax forfeiture. Thanks very much for the time. Happy to answer any questions and appreciate it. And thanks to Senator Osmek once again.
Thank you, Mr. Elwood. One question that I have, I had a conversation with the with county officials just yesterday, and I was reading through their list of legislation and things they'd like to see. It's my understanding that that sometimes the charges and penalties that are made for non-payment of real estate taxes for whatever reason can vary from property class to property class. Do the interest rates charged generally remain the same regardless of the class of property?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Mr. Elwood, go ahead.
Senator Osmek, if you know the answer, I'll defer to you.
Well, you can correct me, but I believe because it's a floor rate, it crosses all boundaries, but Mr. Elwood can correct me that it doesn't go any lower than 10%. It can go up, but it's unlikely that it would. But Mr. Elwood could correct me.
Mr. Chair and committee members, the last thing I would be doing is correcting Senator Osmek on anything, but actually he's correct, and I appreciate it. There is a ceiling of 14% actually, but there's the floor of 10, which this bill would eliminate.
Very good. Mr. Sylvia, do you have anything additional that you would care to add?
Mr. Chair and members, I would have nothing additional to add other than just saying that this bill does retain the 14% maximum, but as indicated from Senator Osmek, it eliminates the 10%.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? Seeing none, Senate File 2764 will be laid over for possible inclusion. Thank you, Senator Osmek. Mr. Elwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
With that, we've come to the end of our agenda, and tomorrow, Senator Nelson and the Full Tax Committee will assign additional bills, and we will continue on next week with the Property Tax Subcommittee. Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned.